you won't believe what you are missing out on. This is the Geely Galaxy M9. It has over 800 horsepower, it can travel over 800 miles of range, and it costs about $35,000 as a family 3-row SUV. It even has a refrigerator. Now, if all that sounds absolutely crazy, that's because it is. So most of you are watching this in the United States, which means you haven't seen one of those on the road before, and that's because it's only sold in China, at least for now. And that makes this video just a bit different, but no less interesting because this SUV is super unique. This is our exclusive first test of the Geely Galaxy M9, and today we're here to find out, is this thing all hype or are we missing out on something truly amazing? Welcome, my friends, to Edmunds Fully Tested. We're Edmunds, and we test hundreds of cars each year on the road and at our private track, so you get the most trusted reviews. If you want to know which car, truck, or SUV is the best, then stick with us. You've probably driven by Geely cars before, you maybe just didn't know it. Geely, and yes, it's Geely, not Geely, is one of the world's largest automakers, and its portfolio includes Volvo, Polestar, Zeekr, Lynk & Co, and Geely. The brand, not the company. I know it's a little bit confusing. Geely, the company, has a huge footprint in Asia and Europe, and it's long considered getting more involved in the US beyond Volvo and Polestar. And that's a big deal because nobody is making cars in the US right now quite like this. And now, back to the M9. First of all, it's an EV, but it also takes gas, and that makes this a plug-in hybrid, although it's just a little bit more complicated than that. So this has a big battery pack just like any other EV, but it also has a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder under the hood. And this can juice up the battery when you need it or send extra power to the wheels. This is similar technology to what we expect in the next generation Ford F-150 Lightning or the Scout models, whenever those show up. But check this out. Geely says that this car can travel up to 130 miles on electric power alone. But when you fill it up with gas and electricity, they say it can travel 808 miles in total. So long story short, nothing else in the States right now can go that far on a single fill. An F-150 with a 26-gallon tank and diesel power can't touch this thing. So all you people who love to talk about range anxiety in the comments, well, here's your answer. Depending on trim level, you get either front or all-wheel drive. Now this car in particular is pretty much fully loaded, so it comes with all-wheel drive and 3 electric motors with 850 total horsepower. Geely says that means 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. That's a lot of big claims from this company, and this is our first opportunity to test a car from the Chinese market. So let's see how it does. If the Geely does ever come to the US, we'll let you know. We cover all the latest news along with all the cars we test, rate, and own over at edmunds.com/news. Before heading to our acceleration straight, we put the Geely on the scales like we do with every car we test. And it checked in at 5,771 pounds, or about 300 more than a Lexus TX plug-in hybrid. Now considering the Geely has more than double the battery, that makes sense. Starting with our 0 to 60 acceleration, the M9 beat its claim. It hit 60 in 4.2 seconds. That's about half a second quicker than the all-electric Kia EV9, wildly quick for an SUV like this. The Geely continued on to complete the quarter mile in 12.9 seconds, or about 0.6 seconds quicker than a BMW X5 plug-in hybrid. The M9 stopped in our emergency 60-0 braking test in a very impressive 110 feet. That destroys the EV9's 124 feet and matches the BMW X5M. That's a legit performance SUV. Around our 200-foot skid pad, the M9 pulled 0.86 G, which is less than the EV9 0.91, but better than a Hyundai Palisade 0.82. We don't normally emphasize our sound test, but we have to call out the Geely's 32.5 decibels at idle. That is extremely quiet. It beats a Rolls-Royce Spectre. So let's walk through some of the driving modes and the tons of different ways you can configure this car before we get going right now. The default mode is called Smart, and this will use a combination of the engine or the electric motors, depending on what the situation calls for. I have the ability to put it in full electric mode, and that's when the battery has enough range to do that. The REEV, or range extender EV mode, will charge up the battery using the engine as a generator, and then I have a full-on performance mode, which will squat down the air suspension, give me all the power at once, and firm up the steering. Is that enough to go through? It's quite a lot, I know it. Let's try. Man, okay, when I say 850 horsepower, you probably think rocket ship. It's quick, don't get me wrong. As far as three-row SUVs go, this might be the most powerful one that I've ever driven. The power comes on quickly too. It feels like an all-electric car, but then I leave my foot in it, the engine steps in to help out and gives you that little extra shove. It feels normal, it's not weird, but at the same time, you can tell that there's a lot going on right now. But once you get behind the wheel and drive, it's just easy. It's really easy going driving this car. This is a quiet, comfortable, really luxury feeling SUV. I mean, the glass is double laminated. The engine barely kicks in, and when it does, you hardly know that it's happening. I mean, this feels like a full electric vehicle just in terms of how quiet and composed it is, even at highway speeds. The ride quality in this too is among the best I've ever driven in a three-row SUV. I mean, this is much better than something like a Lexus TX, for example. When you see a pothole or you hit something in the road, it just eliminates it like it was never even there. I mean, I don't want to go as far as saying like this is as good as a Bentley or a Rolls-Royce, but in terms of other mainstream luxury brands, this is as good, if not better, than a Mercedes or a BMW. The downside of having ride quality this good is that this is tuned so soft. I would say way too soft for the American market. We like our cars to be a bit more composed when you're going around a corner, and this just leans, feels more like I'm on a ship than I'm driving a car. So despite the fact that I have 850 horsepower, I don't feel very inclined to use it going hard into a corner like this because the car is just too soft and too heavy. So in just normal everyday driving, one of the things I've noticed is that the regenerative braking, it works, it's very strong, but it takes a second to kick in. A lot of electric SUVs, as soon as you take your foot off the accelerator, the car starts to instantly slow down. This gives you a second to coast before it starts to gently slow down. It's just one of those small nuances that you can tell that this is not made for an American consumer necessarily. So I don't like to critique design too much because it is a very subjective topic. But I can tell you that that is maybe the only one of these cars in the entire country right now. And I've been driving it around for a week and like 2 people have noticed. One guy just saw the badge on the back and got confused, took a picture of that, didn't even look at the rest of the car. So given the M9's pretty anonymous styling, at least there's some ways to get attention. I like that one. Holy screen! That is really something, but let me address that in a second. Because first I just want to say this interior is really impressive. Everything around me feels on par, if not nicer, than the Hyundai Palisade. And that's our favorite 3-row SUV and an Edmunds top-rated winner. I'm just a big fan of the details. There's this little crystal dial in the middle. I like the wood trim around it. Even the speaker grates have a nice metal finish to them. It's good stuff. I'll admit that the design isn't as exciting as a Hyundai Palisade, especially this dash area in front of me, but everything around me is very high quality. You can feel the difference. And there's a ton of comfort features, just like a luxury SUV. I have heated, ventilated, massaging seats up front. The passenger gets this nice little neck pillow, and that's just the start. All right, so now that my pink car is fired up and ready to go, let's talk about this screen. This is a 30-inch 6K resolution display that stretches from the middle of the car all the way over in front of the passenger. It is huge, it is bright, it is clear, and it is oh my God, quick to respond to. As soon as you get the car started, this fires up and it's as quick as an iPhone every single time you play with it. It is a completely different ball game than the Forester Hybrid, which by the way is part of our 1-year road test fleet.
It just doesn't react. It's super laggy, it's super buggy. All of these are just kind of blurry and really difficult to see.
That car can take 2 to 3 business days to get the screen fired up. This, on the other hand, is as good as Tesla, Rivian, the very best in car tech. So some of the features like the navigation, the voice assistant, and the web browsing aren't working right now, and that's only because the car is in a foreign market, but there is still plenty to play with here. Here are a few of my favorite things that I've picked out. So first of all, the apps are really bright and colorful and easy to pick through. I love that when you put on the turn signal on either side, you get a really clear camera feed. You can actually change on the screen where you want it to go. And when I put the car in reverse, the camera feed to go back there is massive. It's very clear and you can see exactly where you're going. I'm a big fan of that. And if that's not enough cameras for you, if I go into here, I can scroll down to where it says rear view, then you get a live feed of whatever the heck your kids are doing in the back seat, so you can make sure everybody's behaving at all times. So there are just a few physical buttons here and on the steering wheel, but pretty much every major function you have to take care of in the screen. That's not always our preference, but at the very least, it's quick and responsive. On the other hand, I love the driver's display in front of me. It's not huge, it's very minimal, but there's all the information that I need to see all the time is right there. So I have to say the second row is kind of where it's at. Not only are these seats super comfortable, but there is a ton of adjustment. They're also automatic, and I can lean way back with this recline, and I have a little pillow to go with it. I also like that they managed to put 2 cup holders right here in the armrest. They hold nothing but a really tiny can, but it's still pretty cool. Over here is where we get to the really neat stuff though, because this is a refrigerator, and that's barely doing it justice because this drink has been in here for like 2 minutes and it is ice cold. Coming over here, there's a tray table. You really only see this in super high luxury cars, so that's awesome. And then my final favorite touch is we have a flip down entertainment screen, old school style, flipping down from the ceiling. Now, once it actually deploys like this, you realize that it's also a touch screen and the resolution looks just as good as the screen up front. I can mess around with the seats, I can look at the weather. It's a whole entertainment console back here. This back seat rules. So my list of things that I care about in a third row is not super long, but this ticks every single box and then some. First of all, easy place to put my phone, done. There's a cup holder right in front of it. I have a place to charge my phone. There's even a heated seat on both sides in the third row. That's awesome. But my favorite part by far is I can recline. And not just a little, not just a medium amount, it keeps going all the way to where I can almost see out of the rear glass behind me. I'm not sure anybody needs to nap at this angle. This is a bit extreme, but it's here if you need it. If your 3-row SUV is lacking some amenities, maybe it's time for an upgrade. You can head over to Edmunds.com and see local listings in your area. So for a 3-row SUV this size, the cargo space back here is decent. It's not anything crazy, but you'll definitely be able to stack up a few small size suitcases. Now there's one thing that I really like, and that is I have the ability to fold down the third row with 2 buttons over here. That's a nice feature that you typically only find in more expensive SUVs. And when you fold the seats down, you can easily fit in bigger items. You can also fold down the second row if you need even more space. So the topic of value is sort of a complicated one. In China, this car ranges between $25,000 and $35,000 US dollars. And the car that you see here is top spec, so call it about 35 grand. Now for comparison, in the States, there is not another 3-row SUV that has this number of comfort features or just features in general that cost the same money. Period, end of story. But it's safe to assume that if Geely ever did bring this car here, and remember, that's not completely out of the question. Geely owns the majority stake in Volvo, which does have manufacturing plants here in the US. But if you add in all these extra assumed costs between tariff, environmental, labor charges, this would be much more than $35,000. But even at 50, 60, even 70,000 US dollars, I really believe that the M9 could go toe-to-toe with the Palisade, the Telluride, even a Lexus TX plug-in hybrid. And that's my biggest takeaway after spending time with the M9. The idea of Chinese brands entering our market is gaining traction, and that should put every automaker on notice. If Geely can come here and price match its competitors like Toyota or Hyundai, they have a great chance at success. But if they can undercut those competitors, that would send an earthquake through the American automotive world. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see. But in the meantime, are there any other cars from Chinese brands that you're interested in or that you want to see us test? Let us know in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching.